Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bridge Cultures. My name is Virginia Ruiz. I'm a volunteer from ISIC, Interassistential Service for the Internationalization of Conscientiology. I'm Spanish, but I live here in Foz de Iguazu. And we start this year with the Bridge Cultures. As I remember you that the Bridge Cultures is a series of informative lectures about different cultures around the world based on the consciential paradigm. Today, we are going to present Romanian culture, and we have a special guest to present this theme or topic, that is Adina Oprea. So, welcome to the Bridge Cultures. So, bun venit, Adina. Welcome to the Bridge Cultures.
Thank you, mulțumesc. Good afternoon,
Adina.
boa tarde, bună seara.
Bună seara. Adina. Let's present Adina. Adina is from Romania. She studied foreign language. She worked in aviation industry for almost 30 years. She started studying Conscientiology in 2015. And she translates Conscientiology's books into Romanian. Okay, so please, Adina, she's going to start the presentation. She's going to have 1 hour and around 10 minutes to do the presentation, and then we are going to open to the questions of you guys that you are watching us right now. I see you. And we have, I just wanted to remind that we have a special guest. We have Irina and Adrian from Romanian, and Ana Ruiz, Spanish, but has relation too with Romanian. So, please, when you want, start.
Thank you again. First of all, I'd like to express my entire gratitude for the opportunity that I have to talk about my current life country. It was a challenge for me to identify objectively the main characteristics of my country. May I ask you not to forget to use the principle of disbelief during this presentation. Nu credeți în nimic, nici măcar în informațiile prezentate aici. Cel mai inteligent este să aveți propriile voastre experiențe privind subiectele abordate. Let's go on, please. So I shall start giving few general information from geographical and historical point of view. I try to clarify the Count Dracula's legend, and I try to talk about Romanian personalities famous all over the world, and then I try to analyze Romanian people from the nation holokarma point of view. Strong traits, weak traits, holothosine, collective traumas, holokarmic phase, energetic pockets all over the country according to my own experience. May we go on, please? So geography, Romanian is an European country located at the 45 north and 25 east, at the halfway between the North Pole and equator, and at the approximative equal distance from the main land extremities. It covers 238,397 square kilometers, being the 80th largest in Europe and in the world, and the 10th in Europe. Romania's neighboring countries are in north Ukraine, in east Republic of Moldavia, in south Bulgaria, in west southwest Serbia, and in west Hungary. Romania's relief, there are three important aspects from geographical point of view which define Romania. Carpathian Mountains, 2/3 of the Carpathian Range is in Romania. Danube River, 2/5 of the river form the southwest south border of Romania, and we have also 234 kilometers seacoast at the Black Sea. Romania's landscape is almost evenly divided among mountains, 31%, hills, 33%, and plains, 36%. Climate is continental temperate with hot summers and cold frosty winters. Due to the global warming, winters are getting warmer and with little snow, and summers hotter and very dry, sometimes with drought. From a geopolitical point of view, Romania is at the intersection of important economic axes. Axis west-east, which connect Western Europe with ex-Soviet zone, and at the intersection of the sea axis, Mediterranean, Black and Caspic seas, with the axis of rivers and channels, Rhine, Main, and Danube, which connect North Sea with Black Sea. In the photos on the left, we have one of the most spectacular places in Romania, the Danube Gorges, also known as the Danube Boilers. It is the place where Danube passes through Carpathian mountains, and it is very special because there the Danube narrows at about 230 meters. In this riverbed, Danube flows much quicker and forms many vortices that give you the sensation that the water is boiling. In the other photo on the right, we have two ancient traditional cottages with a roof made of straw and the walls made of adobe. May we go on, please? Thank you. The Romania population is 20,121,641 citizens, representing resident population. This figure includes all citizens who have residency in Romania. Romanian citizens who live and work abroad, but without residence in Romania, and foreign citizens with residence in Romania are not included. According to official data, Romanian diaspora is one of the most numerous in the world relative to the population percentage who works abroad. 19.7% of the Romanian workers who aged between 19 and 65 work in other European countries. Romania is the country with the highest number of migrants. Ethnic groups, Romanians, 88.9%, Hungarians, 6.5%, Roma population, 3.3%, and other nationalities, 1.3%. Romanian language is a Romance language. In its main fund of words, about 2,000 words, are of Latin origin. A Romanian language appeared after Dacia was conquered by Roman Empire from the vulgar Latin spoken by the conquerors, mixed with the Dacian language spoken by our ancestors. Even if the Roman occupation lasted only almost 200 years, the prestige of the Roman civilization, culture and language led to the Romanization not only of the conquered territories, but also of the territories unconquered where the free Dacians were living. The economic relations between conquered and free Dacians had also an important contribution in the Romanization process of the entire territory. Later, the language was influenced by Greek, Slavic, Turkish, and migrant peoples' languages. The Romanization process was a slow one, so we can talk about Romanian language only after the 8th century. Romanian language is also the official language of Moldavia, now an independent republic. A Romanian dialect is a dialect of Romanian language spoken by the Macedonian population who lives in Greek Republic of Macedonia, Bulgaria, Serbia, Romania, and Albania. A political system. Romania is a semi-presidential republic with a bicameral parliament. The parliament is composed of Senate and the deputy chamber. The president is elected directly by the people, and he designates the prime minister who forms the government, which must be voted in parliament. Education is guaranteed by Article 32 of the Constitution of Romania. Since 2003, compulsory education was raised to 10 years plus a preparatory year, which was moved from kindergarten to school. School abandonment in Romania is 16.4%, and the number of bachelor's degree around 25%. A religion. According to the Romanian constitution, Romania is a secular state and it doesn't have a state religion, but still Romania is the most religious out of the 34 European countries. The Romanian state officially recognizes 18 religions and denominations. 92% of the population identify themselves as Christians, and the majority, 81.04%, are Orthodox Christians. In a photo, we have the painting Joyful Peasant Girl, Țărâncuța Voioasă, in Romanian, belonging to the Romanian painter Nicolae Grigorescu, who is the founder of the Romanian modern painting school. May we go on, please? Archaeological data regarding Homo sapiens' presence on this territory. The oldest modern human fossils ever found in Europe were discovered in a cave in Romania, the cave with bones. In this cave were found bones from the 3 Homo sapiens individuals, which were dated 35,000 years old. And according to further research, they might be even older, 40,500. Being the oldest remains of modern human beings in Europe. This important discovery suggests that Homo sapiens reached the European continent several thousand years earlier than it was generally thought. Tartaria tablets are 3 clay tablets discovered in 1961 in a Neolithic site in the village of Tartaria, Romania. On the tablets are incised symbols which are considered by some specialists the oldest writing in the world, older than Sumerian writing. The dating of the tablets was difficult, they couldn't be carbon dated, but scientists suppose that they might be 5,300 BC. The oldest written inscription was found on the route of a future highway in the archaeological site Miercurea Sibiului 2. It is an object inscribed with the writing supposed to be older than the one from Tartaria, possible dating 6,600 BC, 6,200 BC. The scientists are still studying these artifacts, but if confirmed, it could prove the writing in the early Neolithic. The Cucuteni culture is an older Neolithic culture which preceded all human settlements in Sumer and ancient Egypt. It spread over an area of 350,000 square kilometers on the current territory of Romania, Republic of Moldavia, and Ukraine. The drawings on the Cucuteni pottery are similar with those belonging to Chinese Yangshou culture. May you go on, please? Thank you. Dacians were our ancestors. Dacia, before Roman conquest, were larger than today's territory of Romania. Dacia spread in the north up to the western Carpathians and in south of Danube up to the Balkans mountains, and also included the Greek fortresses from Pontus Euxinus, those eastern part of Romania at the Black Sea coast. The Roman Empire conquered Dacia after two world wars between 101 and 102, and the second one, 104, 106, which led to the splitting of unity because only 1/3 of the Dacian territory was conquered. But Romanization took place in all territories, not only in those conquered by Romans. This is an important aspect of the common development of the Romanian people. Later, in the territories lived by Romanized people appeared Romanian voivodeships, Transylvania, Moldavia, and Wallachia, the last one known also as Muntenia. Transylvania had a special historic root because it was conquered by Magyars in the 12th century. According to the first Hungarian chronicle, the anonymous chronicle, when the Magyars attacked Transylvania in 11th century, they found their pre-statal Romanian structure. Therefore, Romania is an important aspect of trauma created by the lack of unity of the Romanian people. The first union of the Romanian principalities took place in 1600 and was made by the voivode Michael the Brave. But unfortunately, this union, it takes only 1 year. In 1859, two of the Romanian principalities, Moldavia and Wallachia, united and formed United Romanian Principalities, the name of the new country. In 1866, in Romania was brought a foreign ruler belonging to the family Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen, and in the same year was adopted a new name of the state, Romania. In May 1877, Romania was proclaimed an independent and sovereign nation after the defeat of Ottoman Empire in the Russian-Turkish War. In the First World War, after a period of neutrality, Romania decided to join Entente. On the 1st of December 1918, the unity of the three Romanian principalities took place. This historical moment represents the birth of the Romanian national united state, and the date of union, the 1st of December, is the National Day of Romania. The period between the two world wars was the best time in Romanian history. Bucharest, the capital, was called the Little Paris. The country developed economically and the culture flourished up. In the Second World War, Romania was initially allied with Germany, and in the last year, after 23rd of August 1944, Romania changed the alliance and continued the war alongside the Allies. On 6th of March 1945, Stalin imposed the appointment of Dr. Petru Groza's government with communist dominance, and in 1947, King Michael was compelled to abdicate, and Romanian Popular Republic was proclaimed. For the next 42 years, Romanian people lived the most oppressive communist regime. Nicolae Ceausescu's communist dictatorship was overthrown in December 1989 under the cover of a popular revolution. A coup d'etat took place. Nicolae Ceausescu was judged by a military ad hoc trial, and he was sentenced to death. May we go on, please? Dracula is famous all over the world, and apparently is connected with Romania, mainly with Transylvania. Let's see what fiction is and what is historical truth. In Romanian language, the word vampire didn't exist until the end of 19th century. And only later, in 20th century, Dracula has become part of the Romanian identity, and Transylvania has become the general quarters of vampires. First of all, we have the Bram Stoker's book, Dracula. According to the historian Florin Küchler-Villach, professor of Southeastern European and Transylvanian history and culture, in the first version of Dracula, the action didn't take place in Transylvania, but in Styria, Austria. Later, inspired probably by Jules Verne's story, The Castle from Carpathians, he changed the location. Secondly, Bram Stoker doesn't use Vlad the Impaler's name in the novel and doesn't make any reference to him. Vlad the Impaler was later integrated in the myth of vampire. The connection between Dracula and Vlad the Impaler was made later by Radu Florescu and Raymond McNally, historians, professors of East European history, who claimed that Vlad the Impaler was the inspiration for Stoker's book. They wrote a bestseller, In Search of Dracula and Vampires, and that was the moment when Dracula has entered the families of vampires. So let's see what's the historic truth. Who was the Vlad the Impaler in fact? Also known as Vlad III, but most commonly known as Vlad the Impaler. Vlad Țepeș in Romanian, or Vlad Dracula, was voivod of Wallachia, often considered one of the most important rulers of Wallachian history and the national hero of Romania. He gained great prestige due to the countless battles won against the Turks. His sobriquet Dracula has more explanation. First of all, he belonged to the family of Draculești, one of the two families who were conquering for Wallachia ruling. His father, who also was a Wallachian's voivod, was known under the name of Vlad Dracul because he was a member of the Order of Dragon. In Slavonic, Dracula is a genitive of Dracul, so Vlad was the son of Dracul. Vlad the Impaler used himself to sign his letters as Dragulia or Dracula in late 1470. Therefore, already in 15th century, diplomatic reports and popular stories refer to him using Dracula, Dragulia, or Draculia. In Romanian language, Dracul means devil, which is possible to have amplified his notoriety. On the other hand, his other sobriquet, the Impaler, comes from his favorite way of execution, the impalement, which in fact was a traditional method of execution. In the photo, we have Bran Castle. Bran Castle is recognized as the official residence of Dracula, but the only connection between the castle and Vlad the Impaler was that in 1459, Vlad the Impaler and his army passed through Bran to attack Brasov in order to settle a conflict with the Transylvanian Saxons. May we go on, please? Constantin Brâncuș was a Romanian sculptor and painter. He is considered one of the most influential sculptors on the 20th century. He was a pioneer of modernism. His work integrates in the context of modernism because it reflects the strong desire to create new forms, to depart from traditional forms of art. In photos, we have from left to right, Mademoiselle Pogani. The name of statue comes from the name of Hungarian sculptor Margit Pogani, who was Brâncuș's model and lover for a while. The other one in the middle is one of his birds in space. As you can see, Brâncuș was concentrated not on physical attributes of the bird, but on the movement. And on the right, the infinity column, which is part of a larger sculpture ensemble in Romanian town Târgu Jiu. May we go on, please? But I think that the most famous Romanians are Eugen Ionesco and Mircea Eliade. Eugen Ionesco was a Romanian-French playwright, and he is one of the most important representatives of the theater of absurd. His theater doesn't have an epic line. It's a kind of anti-literature characterized by an obvious nihilism. I think that the most famous and my favorite one is Mircea Eliade. He was a philosopher, fiction writer, professor, but essentially he was the historian of religions. He spent most of his life in America. He was an American citizen since 1966, and he was a professor at Chicago University. He was a polyglot. He was fluent in Romanian, French, German, Italian, and English, and had a knowledge of Hebrew, Persian, and Sanskrit. His main and the most important work is the History of Religions, which comprises 18 volumes. Eliade is one of the few historians of religions who studied religion as a science. May we go on, please? Thank you. Eliade said that if the Romanian people disappeared from Earth and only one Eminescu's book remained, the world would know who Romanians were. This citation comprises in itself the Romanian people's love for their national poet and the importance of Eminescu for our culture. It is almost impossible to talk about Eminescu's genealogy in few words. He was a novelist, journalist, and the most important poet. He was a romantic influenced by Schopenhauer, Kant, and Hegel's philosophies. He is the most important representative of the Romanian Romanticism and the last European Romantic. Many pages of criticism and literary theory were written about the idea that in his poems he intuited the Einstein's theory of relativity. Here are a few lines from two of his poems to exemplify this idea. First of all, from The Evening Star. The evening star set out, and o'er the sky his wings extended, and million years flew past before, as many moments ended. And in Romanian, porni luceafărul, creșteau în cer a lui aripe și căi de mii de ani treceau în tot atâtea clipe. Or the other one, from the poem La Steaua to the Star. So far it is athwart the blue, to where yon star appears, there, for its light to reach our view, had needed 1,000 years. Maybe those ages gone it shed its glow, then languished in the skies, yet only now its rays have sped their journey to our eyes. La steaua care a răsărit e o cale atât de lungă, că mii de ani au trebuit luminii să ne ajungă. Poate de mult s-a stins în drum, în depărtări albastre, iar raza ei abia acum luci vederii noastre. May you go on, please? George Enescu was a Romanian composer, violinist, pianist, conductor, and professor. He is the most important Romanian musician. He was a child prodigy. She started playing violin at 4 years old, and he had his first concert at 5. He studied from 7 to 13 years old at Vienna and Paris conservatories. In 1898, at 17, he made his debut as a composer with the poem Humain, played by a Cologne Orchestra in Epoch, one of the most prestigious in the world. Many of his compositions are influenced by Romanian folk music. He shared his activity between Bucharest and Paris. He had concerts in most of the important European cities and abroad. He conducted famous orchestras, for example, Philharmonica Orchestra, and from Philadelphia, and New York Philharmonic. Once communist dictatorship was installed in Romania, he self-exiled in France. He also had French citizenship. In George Enescu International Festival, in 1915, the first edition of festival took place. It was organized by Enescu himself, and he paid with his own money the prizes for the winners of the composition competition. During communist regime, the funds for the festival were consistently reduced, and it became only regional or national festival. After 1989, the festival has regained its international notoriety and takes place yearly. May you go on, please?
Adina, can we watch the music from Enescu?
Yeah, of course, I'd like it. Sure.
Okay, so enjoy the music, please.
Thank you. what you could hear is Enescu's first Romanian Rhapsody.
Just a minute. They're going to put the slides in a minute. Now.
Okay. And let's go on with the Romanian aviation pioneers. Traian Voia was a Romanian inventor and aviation pioneer who designed, built, and tested the first tractor monoplane. He was the first who demonstrated that a flying machine could rise into the air by running on wheels on an ordinary road. He was the first man who flew with a flying machine heavier than air. Henri Coandă was an inventor, aerodynamics pioneer, the builder of an experimental aircraft named Coandă 1910, described by Coandă himself in the mid-1950s as the world's first jet. He discovered also the Coandă effect of the fluid dynamics, which has applicability in jet engines. Next slide, please. Okay, we start with a few Romanian famous women. Iulia Hajdeu was a poet, the daughter of writer and philologist Bogdan Petriceicu Hajdeu. She was a child prodigy. From a very young age, Iulia Hajdeu wrote poems and prose in Romanian and in French. She was a polyglot. She was fluent in French, English, and German. She was the first Romanian woman who studied at Sorbonne University in Paris. He died of tuberculosis at 19. Her father dedicated the rest of his life to publish her works in French and in Romanian. He supposedly communicated with her until the end of his life. Following the information given by her daughter, Hajdeu wrote the first Spiritism book in Romanian literature, Sic Cogito. In this book, Hajdeu wrote about meetings with her daughter. He said that they were communicating in French, but he admitted that they could have been communicating in Russian, Arabic, Romanian, English, or any other language, alluding that the communication, in fact, was telepathic. Hariclea Darcle was an opera singer, coloratura soprano. Giacomo Puccini chose her to be his first Florida Tosca. Pietro Mascagni chose her to be his first Iris, and Alfredo Catalani chose her to be his first Wally. Cela de la Vrancea was a pianist, writer, and piano teacher. She also wrote short stories, novels, and memoirs. She gave her last public recital at the age of 103, receiving 6 encores. Thus, she set a world record for being the oldest professional pianist ever, according to the World Record Academy. The next slide, please. Sofia Ionescu Ogrezeanu was one of the first women neurosurgeon in the world. She is most often credited as being the first one, but according to her own words, she was not the first one in the world, but the first in Central and Eastern Europe. Eliza Leonida Zamfirescu was a Romanian engineer, one of the first women with a degree in engineering. In fact, she was the third one. As a curiosity, she was Gheorghe Leonida's sister. Gheorghe Leonida is the sculptor known for creating the Jesus Christ's head of the statue in Rio de Janeiro. Ana Aslan was a Romanian biologist and physician. She is the inventor of the term gerontology. In 1959, she organized the Romanian Society of Gerontology and Geriatrics, which was the first in the world to channel research to prevent aging. She created a large range of cosmetics and anti-aging therapeutic strategy. The next slide, please. Nadia Comaneci was a gymnast. She was five-time Olympic medalist. In 1976, at the age of 14, she was the first gymnast in the world evaluated with 10 at Montreal Olympiad. Simona Halep is a professional tennis player. She is the tennis player who remained longest in top 10. She won 22 WTA single titles and 2 Grand Slam single titles in 2018 at French Open and in 2019 at Wimbledon Championships. The next slide, please. Romanians' traits. Constantin Radulescu Motru, psychologist, philosopher and professor, wrote in the first part of the 20th century, in 1937, that the features of a population are conditioned by 3 factors: the people's hereditary biological fund, genetics, the geographic environment, the typical spiritual manifestation, traditions, moral habits, conceptions of life, and the institutional characteristic imprinted in a population during historical evolution. From conscientiological point of view, we can add the paragenetic aspect of the consciousnesses who form a group of people. So, strong traits of Romanians: 100% hospitality is the most manifest, visible, and obvious trait. Romanians will and always know how to make you feel great, how to make you come back to their country. A native intelligence. Romanians are born with a percentage of native intelligence. Certainly, this native intelligence should be supported and developed by education and self-education. Creativity is related to native intelligence, and Romanians have the ability to create originally. This creative potential, when enriched by education, makes Romanians to be successful in a wide range of domains. Adaptability. Romanian people have always been very flexible, and I'll explain a little bit more about this flexibility when I talk about Mater Thosi. Communicability. Even if they don't speak your language, Romanians will always find ways to communicate with you, and shortly you won't even realize that you don't speak the same language. They are talkative and persuasive. Tolerance is a consequence of adaptability. Sense of humor. Romanians have a huge sense of humor, and more when they are in trouble, in the biggest ever possible trouble, in the most dramatic situations, they make jokes and laugh. amiability, they are friendly, warm-hearted, ready to hug you, to kiss you, to comfort you. Community with nature, Romanians have always coexisted with nature in a perfect symbiosis. Nature has offered them the force to survive, and they have always been grateful to nature and protected it. They might have known instinctively how to use immanent energies in their best use. Love for beauty. Romanians have always liked to decorate their houses, their gates, even household objects. Their traditional clothes are handmade and beautifully adorned. But let's talk also about the weak traits. Sometimes Romanians are passive. In many important moments in history, they remain still until the situation became more than impossible. They love their comfort zone, although this comfort zone is not always comfortable. Sometimes they are envious. According to sociological research from 2018, Romanians are prone to make social comparisons, according to which they judge, they analyze their success or failure. Patriotism and nationalism. I think that patriotism comes historically from the Romanians' wish to live peacefully in their small community. But still, patriotism is not a strong trait, being incompatible with universalism. Nationalism, I'm pretty sure that their bursts of nationalism are ephemeral, because they have the discernment to understand that what connects the human beings is much more important than, and stronger than what makes them different. Corruption Perception Index in 2019 places Romania at the bottom of the ranking, near Bulgaria and Hungary. In Romania, corruption is a state order. Corruption can be found both and in public and private sector, and represents a big concern for foreign investors. Laziness and procrastination, according to the European Union's Institute of Statistics. In Romania, there are 2.3 million people between 19 and 64 who are able to work but refuse to work and prefer social support allowance. Disloyalty. In my opinion, Romanians are not disloyal. I think that it was their geographical and their geopolitical position which made them change seldom their allies. Individually, they are loyal, good, and trust friends. Resignation to destiny, abandonment to divinity, and bigotries come together. Resignation is an important aspect of the Romanian people's psychology. This trait is a self-justifying argument for any chronic helplessness. From resignation to abandonment and bigotry is only one step. The destiny in this context might be fatal. Romanian people are superstitious, and according to their philosophy, the destiny is founded on the mentality that things cannot be rationally solved, that the only chance is to leave everything in the hand of a superior, divine, omniscient, and omnipotent instance, the god. May we go on, please? Romanian people Holothocene. In my opinion, Romanian matter Thocene is flexibility, malleability, adjustability, adaptability, which is given by the geographical position at the border between East and West, between Catholicism and Orthodoxy, between Latinity and Slavonic and Turkish cultures. During history, Romanians had to be as malleable as possible in order to be able to interact with the more powerful countries, to sign peace treaties and alliances, which should have ensured them a relative independence or autonomy. Today, when many Romanians live abroad, this flexibility is still manifested. Romanians don't live in separate communities only with other Romanian citizens. They mix with the local population, adopt easily their lifestyle, but they still keep their traditions, especially those related to the religious holiday. This malleability might be, at a certain moment, Romanians' chance to universalism. Before the 50s of the 20th century, Romanian Holothocene was an agrarian and self-defense one. Romania was not an industrial country. The main economic branch was agriculture, and agriculture was made with rudimentary tools. Before the communist forced industrialization, a huge percentage of population were living in a rural zone. The urban population was weak represented, and even in big cities, the lifestyle in suburbs was rather rural. These poor peasants were those who were called to defend the country's territory and to fight for its integrity. The communism Holothocene was characterized by fear, forced hardworking, sacrifice, and self-suffering. Communism came in Romania with a very Stalinist pattern. I think that we faced the most oppressive and repressive regime. People were starving. They didn't have many elementary rights, the right of association, the right of free expression, the press liberty, the travel liberty. The opponents of the regime were arrested and sent to labor camps. Many were killed, and others died because of the extenuation and starving. The next slide, please. In the last 30 years, Romanian current Holothocene has been strongly influenced by several aspects. First of all, the strong impact of transition to democracy. After 50 years in communism, liberty and democracy were difficult to be integrated. But beyond the inherent mistakes, democracy was the element which contributed to the Holothocene change. Opening borders and freedom to travel had, first of all, a psychological benefit, because during communism, people were not allowed to travel abroad. Secondly, traveling and knowing new cultures, meeting different people, observing the way they live, open incredible opportunities for evolution. Opening borders has had a clarifying effect on the country Holothocene. Foreign investments were impactful from economic development point of view, but they also gave people the openness to grow professional, to change their attitude towards work, and to widen their vision. Culture and educational openness, abolition of censorship made possible the free manifestation in all cultural fields. People had access at foreign information sources. Students started to participate at intercultural changes and started to study abroad. There are also aspects that influenced negatively the Holocaust after 1989. The first impactful aspect was the problem of adoption. The images of orphaned and malnourished children swaying in insalubrious, insanitary centers, the traffic made with children remain a stain, and we will need time to recycle. Another important aspect is given by gypsy population. They gave to the National Holocaust an extra note of disorganization, although they are in Romania since the 14th century. They started to manifest themselves more pregnant and more visible after 1989. I'd like to explain here the linguistic confusion between Romanian and Rome. During their settlement in Romania, they adopted the name Roma or Roms or Romani with a double R. This denomination of gypsy population creates confusions and unfortunately not only linguistic confusions, but also confusions between two different ethnicities, putting the equal sign between the two ethnicities' attitudes, behaviors, even history. Romani and Romanians are completely different. Alcoholism, according to the World Health Organization regarding alcoholism, Romania is ranked 5th in world and 2nd in European community. There are 3 million alcoholics in Romania, and unfortunately, Romanian state haven't developed yet coherent means to assist people with such problem. And again, culture and education, as we are a country of contrasts, while for some people the democracy has brought the possibility to expand their culture and education, others have become more superficially and have adopted Bradithosins. They have accepted easily to be manipulated by media. They have taken any information as truth without discernment, without judgment or experimentation. There are important differences between big cities, Holothosyn, and villages, Holothosins. The big cities are more cosmopolite, with a way of life similar to other European cities, while small town and villages are still with accent on agrarian, with low level of education, culture, sometimes without elementary health safety. There are also differences between Transylvania's Holothothin, which is more sober, more German, and the extra-Carpathian region's Holothothin, which is more Oriental and disorganized. The next slide, please. The deepest collective trauma. As I have briefly presented before, the history context left deep scars in Romanian people's holokarma. From my point of view, the worst and deepest trauma, and undoubtedly was undoubtedly the lack of national unity. The national strong desire for unity, the so-called ideal for centuries, was a leitmotif, a recurrent guiding theme on the historical route. During history, large Romanian territories were under the jurisdiction of other states. Transylvania, under Austro-Hungarian Empire until 1918, Moldavia was split according to the Ribbentrop-Molotov Treaty in two parts, and more than half went under Soviet domination, and currently it forms the Independent Republic of Moldavia. Another lost territory is Southern Dobroja, which is currently in Bulgarian territory. This trauma of lack of unity must be seen from the perspective of historic context, of the evolutive level of the people. Certainly, from the perspective of universalism, it is a nonsense. The trauma of the small country must be also determined in the historical Bellicist concept. Context. The independence and the relative autonomy of the Romanian countries had to be kept in condition of numerical inferiority, reduced financial and military resources. The communist trauma for Romania, the communist dictatorship, was the worst period in history, especially the second part of Ceausescu's ruling, when people were at the verge of starvation. Nowadays, effect of this trauma, the first effect of this trauma was, for a time being, the loss of identity. A nation collective memory keeps people's ideals, and when those ideals fulfilled or lost their importance, a moment of disorientation occurs, and people might lose their identity. And from here are two directions. First, people need to build a new identity on new constructive principles and need to use new thoughts. And second, on contrary, they remain in the old energy, the old thoughts, and continue to feed the nationalist and extremist manifestations. In my opinion, step by step, Romanians have started to rebuild their identity. Another effect of these traumas is the massive immigration, which reaches the dimension of an exodus. Beyond the globalization, the economic factors, political instability, lack of jobs, reduced professional opportunities, which make people leave their country. Romanians leave the country because in their genetic code remain the wound of interdiction that they had not to leave the country in the communist period for almost half a century. I think that this a movement of the labor force will contribute in time to the disappearance of the nationalist outbursts. Current karmic account, as Professor Vieira wrote in topics of conscientiology, the nations have holokarmic current counts, just as consciousnesses have. The law of cause and effect is reflective collectively on the citizens. So, Romanians have debts to gypsies. Sometimes gypsies have been treated as an inferior ethnicity. To Jews, about 270,000 Jews were deported to German extermination camp by the far-right government that ruled Romania during the Second World War until 1944. To women, the Decree 770 from 1966 forbade abortions, and because of this interdiction and because of the empiric means of abortion used illegally, 10,000 women died. To peasants and all people who were expropriated according to the law of nationalization in 1948. The entire private property was expropriated and became the property of the whole people, as communist propaganda said. To scientists and artists who chose to leave the country after 1947 because of repressions and because they disavowed the communist politics. And we have credits to our ancestors and to all the Romanian personalities, scientists, writers, philosophers, historians, artists, gymnasts, athletes, who made Romania famous all over the world. The next slide, please. Group karmic phase, in my opinion, Romanian people is between stages, between victimization and recomposition. Some of them are still victims, conscious or unconscious, in the karmic groups. They still feed their inter-prisons, still stuck in sectarian limits, are still crying outdated ideals, still suffer because of the traumatic episodes of the history. They make use of the historic personalities, profiles, and glorify them. For example, there are people who consider that Romania's name should be changed in Dacia, and people who honor Nicolae Ceausescu as the most important hero of the nation. Certain people have started to question about the elements composing the karmic interpresence. And when I say certain people, I mean young people, people with higher education, even people with a stable financial comfort. They have started looking for a new moral authority and getting involved in the process of restructuring. They started operating with neo-synapses. They have new ideas and started to create neo-thosanity. But still, they must pay attention to the risk of a new interpresence. Let's go on, please. May I remind you now not to forget to apply the principle of disbelief. What I'm going to say is the result of my own experience gained during my penta, during my lucid projections, and it is according to my own parapsychic perceptions. I have identified some energetic pockets above Romania. First of all, and the most active, I'd say, is an energetic pocket with bacophil and ultranationalist consciexes. This baratropospheric pocket is above Orăștie Mountains in the area delimitated by the ancient Dacian settlements. They direct their action towards the bacophil movements, which amplify illogically and unfounded historically the Dacian element in the genesis of the Romanian people, and also attribute to Dacians an exaggerated importance in the European context. Then energetic pockets with consciexes which participated in their last life at anti-communist resistance and were victims of the regime. These energetic paratropospheric pockets are distributed in different areas above the country. For example, I have identified one above Carpathian Mountains and another one above Romanian Parliament. There are also numerous energetic pockets spread all over the country related to churches and monasteries or any other places with religious signification. For example, the People Redemption Cathedral, even if is a new building, is a magnet for needy consciexes, and an energetic pocket structured there from the very moment they started the building. The next one, please. What do Romanians need to recycle? To overcome the complex of the small nation, to regain respect for authority, to eliminate corruption, get rid of mediocrity, overcome nationalist tendencies. How should they recycle these aspects? In Homo sapiens pacificus, Professor Vieira said that intraphysical life is the mega game of thoughts, concepts, words, facts, and forces. The one who has greater self-discernment and better self-discipline in applying their own resources will win. Therefore, Romanians should use their best strong traits to turn them into mega strong traits. They should align at the main international goals: peace, education, and health. And they should invest a lot in education because, in my opinion, education is the main pillar. Challenges to intermissivists: to use their evolutionary intelligence, to use bioenergies to profit of the rich natural environment. In Romania, we have largest virgin forests in Europe, for example, to practice penta. In this way, they will be more involved and in relieving paratropospheric energies. And once they have got involved in intra and extra-physical interassistance, they will start working shoulder to para-shoulder with helpers to spread the leading edge truth, to eliminate their own hetero-judgment and help other people to eliminate their hetero-judgment, to promote universalism and to help people to become more cosmopolite and universalist. The role of Romanian intermissivists: the first goal, of course, is to disseminate conscientiology. They have to face difficulties like first of all, they have to find each others in order to form a unitary group, to use their best abilities and knowledge in order to promote interassistentiality and to fulfill their group proexis, to identify together the best ways and the best means to approach the conscience towards whom the messages need to reach, to identify these conscience that are most prone to change their thought and to understand the conscientiological paradigm, to overcome the linguistic limitation and the language barriers. But in my opinion, the biggest difficulty is to approach those undecided conscience, Buscadora Borboleta, butterflies flying from flower to flower, and those conscients who haven't got of orthodox paradigm, and they have mixed it with the new spiritual movement. From my own experience, I can say that I went myself through a process of indecision. During communism, the only paradigm accepted was the materialist one, but I was too young to ask myself too many questions. I was not an existential inverter. After Romanian revolution, I had a short religious period. At that moment, religious effervescence was very in vogue. I think that for me it was more a trend. I soon understood that religion is not for me. I also studied other religion concepts, trying to identify the common elements. Later, I was integrated in a spiritual group, and there I heard for the very first time Professor Vieira's name. It was like downloading a program into a computer. It was an incredible retrocognitive agent. These retrocognitions needed and still need to be supported by a huge work, step by step. I have organized myself, and I have included in my daily routine time for study, for energetic work, for parapsychic development, for penta, for interassistentiality. We have developed here in Romania a team of translators, translating Conscientiology books into Romanian. We try to make information more accessible. We try to build here an important center for all those interested in conscientiology, an important center for conscientiology disseminating. I am very happy that the first book of conscientiology in Romanian is going to be published soon by Editares. It will be Pentamanual, translated by my evolutionary friend Irina. This is an important step because books are the perfect retrocognitive agents. And following the principle that the less sick assists the one seeker, and understanding our role as mini pieces in the maxi existential mechanism, we can open a gate, and we can contribute to the changing of Romanian and planetary Holocene. Thank you. Obrigada. Mulțumesc.
Mulțumesc, Adina. Thank you very much for your presentation. I think it was great. We have a lot of people watching us that I shared during your talk. There's a lot of people, but now we can invite our guests, special guests, to join us. Ana Ruiz from Spain, Irina Vansea from Romania, and Adrian Moleavi. Welcome all.
Hello.
To our debate. We have about 10 minutes to discuss. Okay. Oops. I think Adrian disconnect, but he will come back. Okay. So I think we can just there's a lot of felicitations, congrats for the talk. But I think we have a lot of questions, a few questions to answer, and I think we can start. The first one, there's for someone that the name I don't know, but here is the answer. How did the question? Sorry, how did the figure of Dracula influence the Romanian identity? I think.
Oh, yes, very, very good question. I think that Dracula had benefit. It was a benefit only from economical point of view. From touristic point of view, it is a good support for Romanian tourism and economy. But I think that on the other hand, Dracula shows us how Western European people see us in eastern part of Europe. And I think that they consider us a little bit strange, different, wilder, probably.
Well, we are European, me and Anna. What do you think? Do you think Romanian are considered a little strange? I don't think so. I think they are like this myth is interesting, but I think people don't know the real history. And with your talk, this is very important, to demystify the myth, to know the real history, because that's, I think, can help us then to understand more better Romanian culture.
I think that there are also many Romanians who don't know exactly who is Dracula, who was Vlad Dracul, who, and so on. So we cannot ask to the foreigner to know exactly how the situation is.
Any comment for?
From us?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, just actually, Dracula is just a legend, and the historic character was a ruler of part of Romania at some point, who was known for his I don't know, his strictness in applying the laws of the time. So he was very strict with the thieves. He was very harsh on punishing them, and also especially with the traitors of the country, because at that point we had let's say problems with the Ottoman Empire, with the Turks, and there were a lot of Romanian wealthy people, let's say, who were trying to switch the sides and to let's say sell the country to the Ottoman Empire. So he had no pity for them. He did not. He killed them instantly. He punished them. All the people involved were punished very severe, and his period was known as one of the most honest, in Romanian history because of that. Because all the people that worked for him, let's say a kind of police of our time, was very strict in enforcing these rules. And he was for that he was seen as a very cruel, because he was very harsh. But and this transformed into the legend.
Yeah, into the legend. Maybe some of people say that it's a hero, another that is very cruel, but yes, Adina?
Yes, Vlad the Impaler is a hero of Romanian nation, and he was cruel indeed, but we have to think at the historic period. We are talking here about 15th centuries. All over the world, a lot of cruel things were happening.
To understand the history in that time. Perfect. To contextualize the history.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. Right. Next question from Mario. There's another questions, but I'm going to see each person, okay? Mario Santos, Adina, do you have many hobbies in Romania? Can you share some of your experience? And I'm going to ask another question for you. It is easy to have OB experience. It's easy to mobilize your energies in Romania. It's a good country to work with energies because of the nature or not?
Yes. I think that nature helps us a lot. I told about the virgin forests in Romania, but not only. We still have a lot of places rich in bioenergies, and it's possible to be an unfavorable element. About OB, I have never thought that if it's possible to be a favorable. I have never had an out-body experience in other country than Romania, so I cannot compare. I am still a beginner in this kind of things. I am surprised by myself from time to time. I must admit that I was scared during my first out-body experience. Of course, with time and with any experience, things changed, and the degree of lucidity is going up. So I'm not an expert. I am a beginner, but I think that for an intraphysical consciousness, I think that is the most extraordinary experience ever.
Okay, I think I saw that there's a lot of Romanian people participating in this talk, so maybe they can say us if they think that it is easier to have OB experience or not, or mobilizing energies. But I would like to know Irina's experience. What do you think about that? About energies, OBs? What do you want to share about the bioenergies?
I agree with Adina. We have a beautiful country full of nature, and I haven't experienced counterflow in moving my energy, only my only thoughts. So if I have my own blockages, I feel it. But of course, it depends if you're in Bucharest or in traffic. Definitely, it's hard for everybody. But no, it's point from the energetic point of view. I think Romania it's okay. What do you think, Adrian?
Yes, of course, I totally agree. So I think everyone should come and see for itself,
Virginia, I would like First of all, Adina, congrats for the excellent presentation. I saw some pictures about Romania, but they were beautiful, the pictures and the video. It was really beautiful. And I would like to ask you three, if it is easy when you talk about out-of-body experience or some other concepts of the consciential paradigm, people is more open or they are more closed and they think that it's something crazy. What
Yeah.
can you say?
I think that beyond their degree of religiosity, Romanian people is a spiritual one. Yes, conscientiology is not an easy paradigm, and it is still difficult to understand exactly. It is very difficult, I think, for any people in the world, not only for Romanian people, to get out of the idea of divinity, of God, of I don't know, angel, and so on. So we have to handle with all these elements, and I know that this is the most difficult thing. I meet weekly with a group of friends of mine, and together we are talking conscientiology subjects. They are absolutely extraordinary. So if I talk about them, we are perfect. I haven't interact with huge masses. I don't know how conscientiology, how would be the conscientiology impact in the country, but we hope that step by step we'll do it, and we enlarge our yes.
Well, for me, I pay my attention the fact that there's a lot of people in Romania. In Europe, you see, there's Germany, that there's a lot of intermissivists. There's in Portugal, of course, and in Spain less. But in Romania, there's a few people interested, and the translation of the books, I think, is an indicator. But I'm going to show you this question from Irina Kodutra.
Irina, yeah.
Irina, ne? Irina is you? Irina? Okay. This is connected to another question to Ligia too. Having in mind that in Romanian conscientiology is starting to spread, do you think that more intermissivities will start to appear? And the second question that is connected with this is a question of Ligia that say that, do you have an estimation of the number of Penta practitioners in Romania?
No, unfortunately, I don't know. Maybe Adrian, I suppose, but I don't know anybody else practicing Penta. I don't know. And about Irina's question, I think that many more intermissivists are going to come in intraphysical life more and more. So we suppose, and I suppose, that also in Romania will in the future more intermissivists will be born. I think that the work we are doing here will have impact after I don't know how many years in the future, and probably the next intermissivists will be very happy. It will be more easier for them to find in Romanian Romania Conscientiology books translated in Romanian. So the work is not only for now, it's not only for, I don't know how many people are interested now in Conscientiology. And believe me that I'll do my best efforts to be more every day more. But our work is important for the future, first of all.
I would like to say two things about Romanian, and then Adriana and Irina can talk too. The first thing that paid me attention to is that you guys are the pioneers, you know, the first people in Romania, that are working with conscientiology, and I think you have the ethic. You are doing a great work with the translations. And another thing that paid me my attention, that you are very open to learn Portuguese. And it is not a pattern with other cultures or other intermissivists, in my opinion. I don't know, Anna, what she thinks, but it's a pattern. You are more open to learn Portuguese. You can, Adina can write very well Portuguese, can talk. Irina too. I don't know Adrian because I never talked with him. Only in English I know him, but this is very interesting for you, and I think it's connected to your culture. I don't know but please, if you want to do any comment.
Yes, Adina already told us about our adaptability. As intermissivists outside of Brazil, we need to adapt.
Yeah, in fact, I think that it is that retrocognitive agent, you know, and in my wish to learn more, to read more, to study more, I had to learn Portuguese also. And by the way, I love it. I like it very much.
Okay. Adrian?
Yes, I wanted to make a comment about the intermissivists in Romania. I think in Romania, the people are indeed very spiritual. Not necessarily, we have a layer of religion, which is, I think sometimes it's important, but most of the time it's just a facade. It's just an expression of another layer, which is much more free of dogma, and it's much more spiritual. And I think that there are a lot of people that nowadays are searching for much more clarity and a much more scientific approach. You know, more experimentation, and people that are not convinced by things like I don't know, you should trust what I tell you, and things like that, and they are searching, and I think the information will reach them in a short time, actually.
Okay, people, we are about to finish. So I think it's time to do the last comments. So please, Adina, do you want to say the last comments, or you want to?
Yes, I'd like to invite you in Romania with next time when you visit Europe. I want to thank you again for the support you offer us. And I am pretty sure that together we can the best to disseminate conscientiology all over the world, and in Romanian, of course, because we are here and we are working here. Thank you. Thank you again. Obrigada. Mulțumesc.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Mulțumesc, Adina, Irina, Adrian. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you all the people that were here with us today to contribute, to say hello, to do the comments. It was great, the participation of you all. There's a lot of names, so I cannot say all, but a lot of people. Thank you very much from different parts of the world, from Europe, a lot of from Romania. Thank you very much, people from Romania. Good to see you, that you are there. And well, I just wanted to invite you for the next bridge. The next bridge will be on, if I can see here, it's 23 of May. Yeah, would be with the International Conscientiological Volunteering with Anna-Katrin Bock from Germany and Eduardo Vicenci. They are a couple, evolutionary duo, and they will present their experience about how you can volunteer outside Brazil spreading conscientiology. Okay, so that's our next bridge. Now, thank you very much for all your presence, and see you. Okay? Mulțumesc.
Mulțumesc. Thank you. Obrigada. Bye. La revedere.
La revedere.
Bye.
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 Bye.